Thank you very much, Congressman Honda. This is our last session now, and I think many of you will find this very domain relevant, if I can use that term. In obviously, being Silicon Valley professionals and entrepreneurs, we've all grappled in our professional lives the complexity of managing data, the innovation around IT and data management. And I was just talking to Ginger. We were discussing the topic. The government is a major investor and spender just by the sheer volume of what needs to be handled in these areas in IT and data management. And just hearing about how that is being, what are the different priorities, I think you would get a very good snapshot of the trends that are happening in the data management and IT innovation. Also, I think this is an opportunity, and I'm going to take the feedback, or rather, just learning from what Congressman Honda said. This is an opportunity where you, as experts and domain knowledge experts, can share your feedback as to how you're managing these innovations and these challenges in the enterprise world. So I would like to introduce Ginger Liu, who's on the stage, who will moderate the session with Aneesh and Todd. And Ginger now serves as a senior counselor at the White House National Economic Council, and is also as a counselor to SBA administrator. Prior to this, Ginger actually has a background that I think the VC world in the Valley would definitely appreciate and relate to. She serves as the managing partner at a communications venture fund in Washington, D.C. for a number of years. So she brings the best of both worlds, and prior to that has had a long-standing public policy and administration experience. So I'd like to introduce Ginger, and then Ginger will introduce Todd and Aneesh, and we will kick off this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Delaware.
Ginger!
Well, we have the privilege of two individuals who are the leading energizer bunnies on behalf of the administration in innovative technology, in innovative policy, technology, thinking. These guys can connect dots in ways that are just incredible. The United States spends on an annual basis $78 billion.
Thank you, Congressman Honda.
On IT investments, purchases, goods, and services. And the federal government is also a major leading early stage adopter of new technologies. We think of the internet. We think of things like flexible, wearable, wireless communication vests so that you don't even have to walk around with a power pack anymore. These types of technologies are being invented now, supported now by the U.S. government, and they will find their way into the commercial sector. The Obama administration has made a major investment in IT through the Stimulus Act. For example, in healthcare IT, more than $20 billion. And as a result, these investments will translate into interesting new business models, new industry trends, and I think new business opportunities. As a result of all of this, you have, as I mentioned earlier, the two individuals who are leading the charge. Todd Park as the Chief Technology Officer for HHS. Prior to joining the administration, he was the co-founder of, I think, Athena Group. Athena Health. And which was one of the most innovative healthcare IT companies in the United States. As the Chief Technology Officer, he has been responsible for leading the department's implementation, whether it's going to be the healthcare reform, whether it's healthcare IT, whether it's changing how HHS does business. And his best practices are being translated at other agencies. Aneesh, as the Chief Technology Officer for the United States, I mean, is that a cool title or not? He's like, what do you do? Well, I'm the CTO of the United States, Yeah, I mean, that is just so cool. But as both a person who understands the technology world and the policy world, it is a rare blend of talent that he brings to his job because he is the first occupant of that position. Prior to that, he was the Secretary of Technology for the state of Virginia. And he was also the managing director of a company called the Health Advisory Board, also in the healthcare field. And between these two, believe me, I sit in these innovation meetings, and half the time I don't understand what they're talking about. But seriously, these are the thought leaders, because I think through their eyes you'll get a sense of where the government is going, what type of trends they're looking at, where they plan to make future investments. Now, this session, I'm only going to pose 2 questions to them and ask them to just respond to them and engage in a bit of a back and forth dialogue. I would like to leave the rest of the time open to you and ask you to submit questions. I think there are some people around who will collect questions from you, but I would really like to devote at least half the rest of our time to responding to questions and engaging in a discussion with you. So if I can just kick it off by talking about a recently released report that I know, Aneesh, you were very much involved in it, and I know Todd was too. Through the Office of Science and Technology Policy, in mid-December, you published a report about networking and information technology trends that the United States is going to be looking at for the next decade.
Yes.
And so if you could, the two of you can really sort of talk a little bit about some of those findings and what does that mean in terms of business opportunities, where we might be going.
Well, thank you so much, Ginger, for the opportunity, and for Microsoft for hosting, and Congressman Honda for your leadership. You're the man. We just want to say at the outset, part of the role that we play is to think about the longer-term horizon, the economic prospects of the country in the 10-plus year horizon, and this report spoke to that issue from a research and development standpoint. I'll give you a quick summary of that momentarily. There are 2 other lenses that we operate on. We'll talk about them throughout the conversation today. The second lens is the lens that suggests that if we get the market conditions right, we might unleash entrepreneurial energy that doesn't need to come to Washington for an approval or a grant or a memo or a whatever. It can just happen because we've set the conditions that would allow you to be as successful as you want to be and can be. And then the third is the piece that Ginger said. We are looking at the government itself as an engine of innovation and change. How do we encourage more creativity and diversity, if you will, in our supply chain so that some of those new ideas can be tested and demonstrated in a safe and secure way so that they have a chance to be to scale if they're successful. The networking and information technology R&D piece is part of the responsibility that I have, which is to take a look at where the country's going. As we know, the internet has been such an incredible engine of productivity growth and economic prosperity. But what does that mean over the next 10, 20 years? This report highlighted 3 key themes that I wanted to just share with you so we have a sense for what the potential opportunities might be as we go. Number 1, there are some key rules of the road that are in the vein of technology meets policy that have to be addressed for us to open up new markets and opportunities. And I'm specifically addressing the issues of cybersecurity and digital privacy. So the report makes a big emphasis on the needs for this infrastructure to continue to thrive and to grow. Needs to address specifically security issues and privacy issues so that they can be then trusted engines for growth moving forward. We'll talk more about that if you wish in the Q&A. The second aspect are what are the new and emerging technology opportunities. The big one in that area, we believe, is in big data. Increasingly, we are producing information, and the Congressman was highlighting his smartphone, but now there are intelligent sensors that are producing information at just an incredible clip. And finding the needle in the haystack amongst all that data to be able to render some economic value or improving your quality of life, there is a science as well as an art to that problem. We call for more research and development funding in the area of big data or analytics in a world where we're just seeing an explosion of information that could be mined. And third is an opportunity that I believe is an area for economic growth more generally, and that is the application of technology on legacy infrastructure. That is to say, what we call I guess in our report, in a little nerdy way, we say cyber-physical systems, but in practical terms, what this means is when we apply technology and data capture capabilities to things that you didn't otherwise think produced information. So if bridge conditions, Congressman, could emit more information about their performance, and we had the ability to intervene and could actually render some action against those legacy infrastructures. What could we do if we modernize the nation's healthcare system, our education system, our energy system, our roadway system, all of our infrastructure, if we could take more advantage of technology. In the near term, we think of things like in healthcare, electronic medical records. But this report calls for the larger debate about sensors and information gathering. If I wanted to know the health condition of my loved ones, my parents or my grandparents, but we're unsure about whether or not I would know, is there a warning indicator that we need to intervene before something bad happens? We're going to be in that world, and we think huge opportunities exist for that.
And I'll just add to that sort of specific words about healthcare in particular. I would say right now, in a very, very concrete, non-theoretical way, that this moment in American history is the single best time ever to be a healthcare entrepreneur. And that's because there's a set of policies that have been promulgated by Congress and the administration that create the conditions that are unprecedented for breakthrough innovation in healthcare that will transform and improve health.
Thank you, Congressman Honda.
Yes, absolutely. So first I'll actually talk about a change in incentives in healthcare. And second I'll talk about data liberación, mass liberation of information in healthcare, all of which will then be facilitated massively by the kind of advances in networking technology that Aneesh just talked about. So the first is actually change in incentives. This is actually a profoundly important part of the bill that Representative Honda helped to pass, but that's not really well understood. It's a very important part, though, of the health reform law. It's payment reform. So how many of you actually are in healthcare or in about healthcare or know doctors and hospitals and whatnot? Okay, yeah. So here's the thing. So as you probably then know, the way that we've historically paid for healthcare in America is by the yard. And what I mean specifically by that is that you pay every time a doctor sees a patient, right? You pay every time there's a hospital admission. You pay every time someone uses a drug. You pay every time there's a surgery. We pay per service. And basically, as we all know, the rule of the market is you get what you pay for, right? So what does the American health system get with that payment system? Lots and lots and lots of transactions. Lots and lots and lots of services growing at an incredible clip, an unsustainable clip. So what is actually in the health reform law that hasn't really been talked about is authorization and direction for Medicare, right, which insures all folks above 65, the largest payer in the United States for healthcare services. It actually authorizes Medicare, directs Medicare to move from pay for volume of services to pay for value. And I won't go into all the nuances of that. We can talk about that all day long. I'm really passionate about. But it's very concrete. It's starting to happen soon. And it will represent a seismic change in the incentives that providers have, right? Instead of actually saying, how many patients can I see and how many surgeries can I do, they'll say, who is my patient base? Who has diabetes? Who hasn't actually come in for their hemoglobin A1C, right? And I should probably figure out how to find them to check them out before they show up in the ER and end up costing me a lot of money, right? That's a really, really, really big deal. And to help providers and consumers and employers and other actors make better decisions under these incentives, we are liberating information en masse at HHS. How many of you are familiar with actually NOAA, NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration? Okay.
Wow, that's a large.
That's awesome. This is an exceptionally literate crew, right? High-tech crew. So I didn't know this until I joined the federal government about a year and a half ago. But NOAA, this little agency, basically supplies all weather data in the United States. So it's not like your local newscaster measures barometric pressure himself, right? I mean, he gets it from NOAA. NOAA collects tons and tons and tons and tons of weather data and then publishes it online, downloadable, in machine-readable format, for free, for anyone to pick up without intellectual property constraint. Then tons and tons and tons of innovators outside the government turn that data into the Weather Channel, weather.com, iPhone weather apps, et cetera, right? So the government's done this play with GPS data with great success, right? With financial data. So HHS is now pursuing a play, the Open Health Data Initiative, where we want to become the NOAA for health data and take tens of billions of dollars worth of data that we've got on community health, on medical provider quality, on food, drug, recall, content, so on and so forth, and publish it online, machine-readable format, downloadable, without intellectual property constraint. We've actually started to do this in a really organized way, and we are already seeing an incredible array of private sector innovators take that data and turn it into applications and products and services that can help doctors, help hospitals, help patients, help consumers make better decisions to get healthy. So at the nexus of these two megatrends, this concrete shift in incentives and how we pay for healthcare and the liberación of information is an enormous opportunity to innovate. Enormous opportunity for entrepreneurs, innovators of all stripes to come up with hyper-cool new products, services, companies that help American patients, help American doctors, help American hospitals, help American employers, help mayors, help folks across the country improve health and become more prosperous as a result. More prosperous both in terms of health and in terms of economic value. So, and if you think about the kinds of things you need to do to take in huge amounts of data, parse it, figure out what to do and when to do it, right? To connect different doctors and hospitals and patients together to get real-time situation awareness of what's going on, it requires a whole new level of kick buttness, right, in terms of networking and technology. And so this report's very timely because it just highlights at a national level the imperative to make progress on this front, which will benefit healthcare enormously. But the real point I want to make with all this is that, it's not the Department of Health and Human Services, it's not the U.S. government that's going to save healthcare. It's you, right? Government doesn't really do stuff well, right? What the government does well, actually at a meta level, is it creates the conditions under which other people can do stuff incredibly well, right? So what we're doing is not, let's think up all the cool apps that our data could power and build them all ourselves. We're saying, look, let's just publish the data and make it free. And then let's have all the other people out there who are a lot smarter and faster than we are take that data and turn it into incredibly cool stuff, right? We're not saying, let's tell Dr. Jones how to practice medicine. We're just saying, look, we're going to stop punishing you, right, for proactively taking care of your patients, keeping them healthy. We're going to reward you for doing that. And then we figure that you know how to do that, right? And then entrepreneurs can help you do that. So what we want to do by changing incentives and liberating information, right, is finally create the conditions under which the rock stars of the world, i.e. the people in this room, can build companies, create innovations, invent stuff that can save American healthcare as we know it. And that's why we get so passionate. That's why we're so excited to be here today. And we'd love to actually engage in an interactive conversation about that and your ideas around how to do that and how we can help you.
Well, the two of you have touched on, I think, two important and interrelated elements. Big data.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also this issue of making open government, making data more available.
Yep.
And this administration has been very involved in this whole open government initiative. Again, Aneesh, I know you've been very involved with leading that effort.
It was my first homework assignment.
And I know you recently briefed the president on his recent trip on this. And Todd, as the CTO from HHS, you've also been very involved, as you were just talking. How do these two...
I gave him a badge of honor. He's the leading practice in the government.
Does he actually have a badge?
He does. He get a badge.
I'm just kidding.
It's under his lookout. So how do these two intersect? Again, how does this translate into opportunities that some of our folks here can think about, start thinking about, in terms of long-term and near-term trends?
So here's how we think about this issue of open government. I jokingly said it was my first homework assignment. When the president, 24 hours, first full day on the job, when he had a lot on his mind, the economy, right, all these issues, he said, I would like my CTO, I had not been named at the time, I'd like my CTO to give me recommendations on how we can harness all this amazing technology and innovation that's happening so that our government will be more open, which means, yes, we'll publish data, but it also means that we'll do a better job of listening to people's voices so that we make better decisions, and that we will collaborate in the execution of solving these big problems that Todd had just outlined in the case of healthcare. So this was his directive from day one, and you can catch all this on whitehouse.gov/open. And by the way, if you care about the Health and Human Services Agency, go to hhs.gov/open. But our basic principle was this. Well, like everything in life is stacks. At the core stack is information that you can take whatever you want and do whatever you want with it, start a business. These two brothers said, you know what's frustrating, Aneesh? Small business owners pay a higher fee on the 401k plan manager than big corporations. And I said, how would you even know this? It turns out that the Labor Department collects statistics on the management fees paid. Congressman Honda, I don't know if you know this. Listen to this tragic story. If you look at the fees, so we get this in forms, like in paper forms. These entrepreneurs took that data in machine information, and they created analytics. They've mapped 95% of all the dollar value of 401k plans in the United States thanks to the Open Government Initiative. The small startup did this. If you have over $500 million of assets under management, so you're a big company, you're paying about 1% management fees. If you're a small business, less than $5 million in assets under management, the range is as high as 10% management fees. the middle class of America that works in small businesses is losing on the order of $2 to $3 billion a year in excess management fees paid because of a lack of transparency in this particular marketplace, which over the course of someone's lifetime, this is a $30, $40 billion problem. Now, no White House initiative said, let's look into the 401k management fees problem. By the way, I didn't know I paid fees on my 401k. Did you? I had no idea. There's no fee listed on the form. So base level, take whatever this information, create a business. This company now, these two brothers, the Alfred brothers, they've got a firm called Brightscope. They're advising small businesses and taking a piece of the savings. If they do this, they're already raising venture capital. They got 25 employees. They're off and running, powered by government data. Second, there are opportunities for specific policy objectives to be better addressed by us setting the rules where the information is more transparent. I'm going to defer on this one to Todd, who's going to describe for you what he's done with healthcare.gov to make small businesses and individuals who buy health insurance have new information that they never had before days after, essentially days, but really months after the passage of the health reform bill. And I wanted to say a word about that. And then the third category, and this is the part that I think if you remember one website before you leave here, I'd like you to remember challenge.gov. Mm-hmm. We actually think that there are certain circumstances where we don't just let the data flow and do whatever, or create the regulatory framework so that it encourages more information to flow, but we actually harness creativity to solve problems. So we passed a law, the America Competes Act actually just codified this. Thank you again, Congressman Honda. That gives every federal agency prize authority. What that means is, without us cutting big checks or procurements or contracting PhDs in procurement physics, which really hard to do, we just simply say, who out there has a creative idea to solve problem X? And we now have over 75 problems posted that are just looking for solutions. Some that are giving small prizes of $5,000, all the way up to these X prizes, $1 million for the most innovative light bulb that is built. And a lot of this is powered by data that we're making available on data.gov. Mm-hmm. So the point here is that don't wait for, hey, a solicitation's coming, I'll hang out, wait for some procurement because some godfather in the room that knows how to issue a check is going to give you an answer. We do that. We do a lot all the time. But this summit here in Silicon Valley is to tell you there's a new path of engagement for job creation and entrepreneurship. And that new path is, A, take what you want off the base data, or engage in areas like challenge.gov. Tell us areas that we should create a new challenge. So I did one with the First Lady. The very first customer of challenge.gov was the First Lady, who cares about obesity in children. So she says, we have all this data on food nutrition, the nutritional value of all the foods we eat. And right now it's sitting on a website, literally myfoodipedia.gov. I don't know if you want to visit that website. It's lovely. I'm sure you'd have a wonderful time. But we liberate all the data. Bottom line is, over 40,000 people in the United States listened to the First Lady's challenge and engaged in this discussion. Students built apps. Parents quit their jobs and started on new businesses to go after this issue. We liberated data. And we had a little bit of an awards ceremony at the White House. We gave 12 awards out to the most creative and innovative applications, all meant to help kids learn about the nutritional value of the food they're eating. That's the spirit. We want to get to your questions. I'm done lecturing. Mm-hmm. Off to you to say a word, if you don't mind, about the healthcare.gov data, and then we can rock on questions.
And Todd, so one of the questions is, under the Open Health Initiative, where can I get more information about it?
Yes.
What's the website, et cetera? And I just want to reiterate Aneesh's citation to data.gov, which is, to get this information, just make sure people have access to that. Todd?
So I'll address that question first. So you can go to hhs.gov/open for now. Second thing you can do actually is go to YouTube and search for something called Community Health Data Initiative, and you'll pull up a video. It's a great introduction to it, which actually shows a big kickoff meeting where...
Are you in it?
I'm in it, but Aneesh is in it. But more importantly, actually, 7 of the coolest innovators who've taken data and already actually taken our health data and built amazing stuff with it that people are using to improve health, they're showcased. They're the reason to watch the video. Yeah, and so, but it provides a good overview of what we're doing in terms of open health data and what's being done with it in the early stages. Oh, sorry. The first website is hhs.gov/open. And then the second is actually go to YouTube and search for Community Health Data Initiative. Community Health Data Initiative. and you'll pull up this video which showcases these innovators and what they've already done with the health data we've liberated. Then the third thing, which will make my life enormously easier, is that by the end of this month we'll be publishing a new site, healthdata.gov, which is really a new section of data.gov.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be a one-stop shop where literally every single data set that we've liberated is actually going to be findable in one place with APIs wherever they're available. There'll be an apps showcase that shows a cross-section of super cool stuff that innovators have already built with the data. There's going to be an online forum where you can talk about the data, complain about the data, ask for new data, talk about what you're doing with the data, a list of actually other data sites that are cool, and also a link to a private site that's been done in collaboration with the government called health2challenge.org, which you should also check out, health2challenge, number 2, challenge.org. This is a site where actually...
Raise your hand, Matt. There he is.
Matthew Holt, baby!
Matthew
Woo!
Holt's in the house. I see
Subaya.
him. Is Indu
Yes.
here?
Yes. Stand up, please. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
Yeah.
Just a round of applause for these guys.
Yay.
No,
No,
stand up
literally
means stand up.
Literally stand
Literally.
up. Okay. These guys are, you're an honorary Asian dude. It's awesome. Okay. So, Indu Subaya, Matthew Holt are heroes of the open health data, open health innovation movement. What they did as part of this whole open health data campaign, and again, it's actually not a government initiative, it's their initiative, right? We're just supporting it and collaborating with them. They published a site, health2challenge.org, and they launched a program called the Health2 Developer Challenge. And they said, look, anybody, government agency, company, motivated individual, foundation, can issue on this site a public challenge, right? Who can build the best
With
app?
no RFP and procurement.
No RFP, no procurement, no bureaucracy, no
Praise the
BS,
Lord.
right? Praise the Lord, hallelujah. So, who can build the best app that engages kids in health data and helps them improve health, right? Who can build the best app that helps communities understand their health status and how to improve it, right? And so, how many challenges have been launched now on the site? 16 challenges, right?
Wow.
Prizes already being awarded, hundreds of people competing from as far away as India and Germany, actually, providing some competition for us. It's all good. It's all helping improve American healthcare. And snowballing. And it's a wonderful mechanism to, again, mobilize interest in activity and potentially even seed new products and companies through this program of challenges. And again, it's all being done without a single federal dollar or RFP or procurement or steering committee. It's basically Indu and Matt taking the law in their own hands and just doing good for the world with our enthusiastic cheerleading and support. So that's where you can go now. So go check out health2challenge.org. Sign up to compete. I'm sure some people already have, and kick some butt and win some prizes and get famous and help save the world, right? It's all good. So then speaking about healthcare.gov, so healthdata.gov, the last URL I'll give you, that'll be live end of this month. We'll send out a blast that alerts everyone. That'll be the one-stop shop that you can go to for all this stuff. In the meantime, we kind of go to each of these individual sites and other sites, but I'm sorry about that, but healthdata.gov will be here soon. Then healthcare.gov. Okay, so healthcare.gov is a site that under the Affordable Care Act we built very rapidly.
Thank you, Congressman Honda.
To meet Congressman Honda's deadline of July 1st of last year. Anyway, it's the first site where a consumer can walk up to it, answer 5-6 questions, and get a comprehensive inventory of both public and private health insurance options may be right for you, including actually how much this insurance costs and what the benefits are, allowing you to compare different policies head to head. It's actually a really cool site, not because of me, but because of the heroism of the team that built it, which is actually interesting to all federal employees because we didn't have time to contract it out. But the Kaiser Family Foundation recently reviewed health reform's progress and said it was one of the highlights and said that it was a website that rivaled the best that Silicon Valley could do. But the thing that's really, really cool about the site, and this kind of hits again the theme that we've been talking about, which is data, right? Is the underlying information we've collected about what all the public and private health insurance plans in America are, and what all their benefits are, and how much they cost, and how those prices change based on smoking status, gender, zip code, et cetera. That's really the revolutionary part of healthcare, not the super cool user interface. And so what we're going to do in the spirit of, again, facilitating innovation and entrepreneurship, right, is we're going to take all that data and make it accessible via a free open API. So anyone and everyone can take that data and turn it into something really cool, a feature in their product or a competitor to healthcare.gov. I mean, it's kind of absurd that the government would build the only Travelocity for healthcare. Totally absurd, right? And so what we want to do instead is say, fine, we'll have our own reference implementation, so we eat our own dog food, eat our own data, make sure it's cool, right? But frankly, true success will be if 5 years from now, 95% of the use of healthcare.gov is not healthcare.gov, but is on a ton of other sites and applications and features of other sites that leverage our data, with companies that have created about 80,000 jobs and 20 billion of market cap in the process. That's really what we're gunning for. And that, again, shows you this mindset, right, that Ginger and Aneesh have been talking about, which is not about the government itself being the innovator. It's about the government facilitating innovation and really, paying homage to Bill Joy's observation that no matter who you are, even if you're HHS and you're $1 trillion a year agency, right, no matter who you are, most of the smart people in the world don't work for you, right? And true progress is made when you actually help those people make the progress that they're capable of making and unlock their mojo.
Now,
All right, let's get to the questions.
Now, a number of the questions have a common theme related to privacy concerns
Yes.
and security concerns.
Yes.
And so it's one thing to make sort of statistics, sort of raw statistics and data available.
Yeah.
But some of this open government stuff may sort of migrate over to some information that may be a little bit more sensitive.
Yes.
And I'm trying to summarize 3 or 4 different questions which
Yeah.
touched on this particular topic.
Yeah.
Again, sort of some of the trends and policies that you're thinking about in this area.
So just briefly, any data set that's published on data.gov has to go through a rigorous security and privacy review, not only for the privacy implications of the data set in question, but on what we call the mosaic effect. That is, if you combine this data set with several others, does that naturally have collectively a problem by revealing information that you otherwise wouldn't wish to be made available to compromise someone's privacy? So we have a rigorous process internally to screen for these things, number one. Number two, there are policies that are very much in the public domain. In the government's context, we have policies that we're always evaluating what information that we hold is publicly available and what isn't. And we have a long-standing process to evaluate what should or shouldn't be made public. A lot of that has to do with classification for secrets and our military and our classification regime. But we've just introduced in the last month, under the Commerce Department, a framework on commercial data privacy. So many of you might be wondering, well, that's great, government. What about all my data is on XYZ website or XYZ web service, mobile service? What protections are there for me as an individual in this more digital environment? We in the White House are very, very focused on what are the right rules of the road for the private sector. Now, we in the federal government adopt fair information practices. And so one of the recommendations sort of at the core, the bedrock of this Commerce Department report is whether or not there are opportunities to apply fair information practice standards in the private sector. And more importantly, in the spirit of the entire session we're having here, adopting the concept of government as convener. Now, Ginger made one faux pas in the introduction for me. She said I was the Secretary of Technology for the state of Virginia. I was actually Secretary of Technology for the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yes.
The word Commonwealth means something because when we first started 400 plus years ago, the notion was that we wanted to come together as friends, family, and neighbors who could then engage in a process of figuring out a way to enhance our collective and shared welfare. So that's a lot of the spirit in the technology environment that we're describing here. So standards, data standards on some arcane issue, we don't need to do 6 years of rulemaking and government dictating. We can engage in voluntary consensus, nimble, market-driven solutions that just need someone to bring people together to say, how do we address this issue? And we called for that in the private sector on online privacy issues. And your feedback to that report, it's a public report available on commerce.gov. And your input would be very much appreciated because these are very difficult issues. Now, on a broader notion of security, I must say we're investing a lot of money. My role on cybersecurity is on the research and development aspects. What are the game-changing solutions that can help us address the problems that we know are inherent in our current information infrastructure? So we don't have any magic bullets for us today, but a lot of you are entrepreneurs and have ideas for them. That may be a conversation for the next topic. But I'm very actively engaged in looking for innovative solutions that we can deploy from an R&D standpoint, largely through our universities, to get more minds thinking about how we address the infrastructure of the future. A word or two there on security and privacy?
Yeah, and health, obviously, security and privacy is paramount. And so, there are different approaches being taken in different venues. So the Open Health Data Initiative is liberating for the public, obviously, data that is not data that violates privacy or security or could somehow be used to re-identify someone. It's stuff like smoking rates for this particular county or cardiovascular mortality for this particular hospital or FDA recall data, that kind of thing, right? So there is actually a component of the Open Health Data Initiative that is actually the ability to retrieve your own personal health data. Like if you're a Medicare beneficiary, the ability to actually view your own claims, or if you're a veteran, the ability to see your own personal health record. But in that case, we're not publishing on the internet for everyone to download. You basically log into a portal, you authenticate yourself, via a whole process, and then you and only you can get a downloadable copy of your own data, right? And then of course, there's all the privacy and security protections that are being promulgated by HHS around electronic health records and the transmission of data. And that's
Todd, pause
been
for one second.
focus.
How many of you have an electronic copy of your own medical record? Wow, that's impressive.
That's a very savvy crowd.
That's a savvy crowd.
Absolutely.
Because when Todd and I got into this, nobody in the federal government that had a federal account, Medicare account, a veterans account, a DOD account, they could see something on a website when they log in, but they didn't have a copy that they could do with it whatever they wished.
So we deployed this, working with Peter Levin, who's CTO of the VA, another soul brother of ours. We deployed this thing called the Blue Button, which is, I mean, I don't want to call it an initiative because it's so embarrassingly basic.
Simple.
Yeah, so what we said was, okay, look, when you log onto my Medicare.gov or my HealthyVet, and you can actually already see an HTML page that has your personal record on it, why do we add a blue button that when you press it, downloads a structured copy of that data? So we did.
Wow.
And now actually...
Guess how many people have downloaded them, Ginger?
So
how many?
Guess.
When just the last handful of months, I think we launched it in early October at Matthew News Conference. I was at 150,000.
200,000.
200,000. Oh my God! Unbelievable. Yeah.
Oh.
So
200,000 people have downloaded their health data.
That's so cool. That is cool.
And so, and what's equally cool is that
It didn't cost us any money.
It didn't, absolutely. And
I
so,
love the blue button. I swear.
and then another piece of that story, again, consistent with this theme, is that there are a growing number of companies that built the ability to upload that blue button file. And turn it into something that's actually useful for you, so you can manage your healthcare finances or visualize your health. In fact, one of the early challenges that Indu and Matthew sponsored.
Our host today built an upload reader.
Oh, that's right. That's
Microsoft.
Right. They did. That's
God
right.
bless you.
And Matthew and Indu sponsored a challenge, the Blue Button Challenge, which Adobe won, that took our incredibly ugly ASCII file, which is what you actually get with the Blue Button, and turned into this like ridiculously awesome, graphical, beautiful picture of your health. That just illustrates the power of what the private sector can do with government data.
Rapid fire round, Todd. We're going to commit ourselves to be quick. And
Okay,
let's go quick.
so the last question actually.
No, keep going. We're just going to rapid fire as many as we can.
How do you encourage and support young, small companies to provide innovative IT solutions to the federal government?
We technically have a small business program that encourages, for procurement purposes, some more diversity. I can't say that it's been revolutionary in its success. My only point is that we have made more aggressive management goals of small business procurement to try to create a cultural environment. Two, there are SBIR awards that are at the intersection of IT procurement, but more often than not are R&D areas. Every federal agency that delivers R&D investments retains a share and offers that as a small business procurement. If you go to sbir.gov, you can see opportunities.
Next one. Okay, excuse me. Given the solutions, here we are. I'm sorry. Some experts say China's implementation of IPv6 for the internet makers, etc., is going to be hard for the United States to compete. Your thoughts on that?
So IPv6 is in my area of responsibility for the private sector, and my colleague, the CIO for the federal government, to make sure that the federal government is compliant. So on the government side, my colleague, the CIO, Vivek Kundra, has dispatched a rule that all federal agencies shall be IPv6 compliant by next year. And I have worked collaboratively with the private sector to develop, this is an interesting little twist, the telecommunications companies, the backbone of the internet, that have to basically make their infrastructure ready. We're creating a board accountability tool. We didn't create it. The chairman of the board of Akamai, which is an important member of the internet infrastructure, had designed a form for his own board that questions whether or not, add that to the management scorecard, will the firm be ready for IPv6? We are literally in the final throes of negotiating with Akamai how to open source that board management template and then to scale that across all of the key internet infrastructure players. And that will create, again, in the spirit of voluntary industry consensus, encouragement. You as shareholders and infrastructure companies should say, hey, has the board adopted the IPv6 management tool, because we want to create that kind of groundswell of support.
Okay.
So that's how we're addressing it here.
To the point of security, how well is cloud technology and SAS applications being assimilated in the federal government?
Well, it's a very timely question, because our brother Vivek Kundra just issued a 25-point plan for how the federal government should actually do IT differently, and at the top of that list is actually cloud first. And that's something I'm pushing individually HHS to make sure that we essentially say, okay, first and foremost, can we do cloud? And how aggressively can we do it before we actually entertain other options? Because it's really the sensible way to go.
It's important for those listening. Certain services don't need mission critical, like super behind PhD physics secure walls. You want to do crowdsourcing of ideas. We launched a common idea portal, Idea Scale, for the federal government, all on the cloud. Not a lot of sensitive data in there. That wasn't a big deal. Most of our mission critical agency applications kind of have that same kind of yes or no. Is this stuff sensitive? Yes, if not. So there's a process. We are in the midst of a regulatory review through our NIST, which is our agency in commerce that oversees IT standards. They've been publishing through a program that Vivek launched called FedRAMP, basically a way for the cloud vendors to come into NIST to demonstrate their adherence to security protocols. So we don't, old way of doing security is a checklist. Can I do this when I knock on the server? Can I do that? And the cloud guys were like, you're not going to do that knocking on our server. That's a little bit weird. That's not how this is working. So we said, how do we get to outcomes-based security reviews? And so the FedRAMP reflects an outcomes-based model, and we're in the midst of that process right now.
So a point you just raised, and this touches a question that just came up, the role of reverse innovation. So you have a lot of folks here who are innovative entrepreneurs who may have some fabulous ideas based upon some of the opportunities you've just talked about. How do they get to you? How is it beyond the challenge.gov?
Here's the point. If you left the room thinking you have to get to me or Todd, we have failed in communicating the message that entrepreneurship and innovation in the Obama administration is you don't need a meeting with Aneesh or Todd. That's not scalable, and we're not the Raj.
Right.
We're not here giving away gifts from above. That's horrible. I don't want to do that. I don't want to say you win a contract and you looked at me funny. You lose, you win. So don't, okay? But ask me, Aneesh, I would like to be an entrepreneur and compete for the $20 billion in healthcare IT. We created the rules that would allow you to certify your product, and that would allow you to compete with any other product in the market. Now, this is an interesting point. Healthcare IT can be complicated. The companies that have been in this business have been there for years, and they build very complicated systems that have been years in the making. So a startup might say, gosh, can I really compete with like Oracle and SAP and build a new ERP system? That may be complicated. But what's powerful about the way we went about it is we said, no. You can compete at the individual performance level. So for example, we set as one of the rules, and this shocked me that this wasn't true today, that a patient is entitled to an electronic copy of his or her medical record, or that a patient should be given a clinical alert or a reminder. Not a lot of systems do that today. So as an entrepreneur, you can certify the world's best patient alert reminder without having anything to do with any other healthcare IT system. Build just the module, certify it, and then as the entrepreneur in you, go find partners who want to combine your solution with theirs so that physicians can have a better service when they go off and achieve the rule, which is meaningful use. And that's true in every domain, health, energy. Hal is here from education. We're going to be making things happen in education like you can't even believe. Learning technologies are going to be a big part of our economic growth strategy, because if you think about backwards in an area that's not seen the productivity gains in technology, it's going to be in the area of education. So we're going to unlock the power of it by, again, enabling convening. So please, you are welcome to learn about the initiatives we're doing. Visit our website, whitehouse.gov, blah, 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 blah. But it is about learning the rules and then operating in them and running them. Fair?
Hallelujah, brother.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll give you a couple.
No, you want to be given away that you win and
tell,
you lose.
As you can tell, we're very evangelical about this.
So there's a couple of other concrete opportunities, which again have nothing to do with talking to me or Aneesh, right? So go to that mix of websites that I gave you, or go to healthdata.gov at the beginning of February, right? Take a look at all the data we've liberated, right, and see what you think you can do with it.
So I'm going to weave a question in there.
Yes, yes, yes.
What's the role of FDA in pharma, biotech, and open innovation, open data?
Ooh, big one.
Say it one more time.
FDA.
FDA.
And pharma.
Yeah. Actually, can I just put the other opportunity out there as well? Right. So also actually go and find a good summary of the Affordable Care Act. Kaiser Family Foundation has actually done a good one. Understand the changes that are happening to the payment system, right? Then start thinking about what doctors and hospitals are going to need to do to prosper under that system, and invent a company that will help them do it, right? You still got some time, right? Because a lot of these changes don't happen for a couple of years. But do that, go raise some angel funding, then go raise some, venture funding, then take it public and, buy an island, and and again, you don't need to talk to any of us, to do that, but the conditions are now set, right? The data's out there, more's coming, the law's been passed, right? So, there's no speculation in any of this. Just go and roll with it, baby, and build good stuff for society.
So, role of FDA and
Health
pharma and biotech in open innovation or open data?
This is a phenomenal question, and actually a phenomenally sensitive question as well.
And we only have about 5 more minutes.
Okay, so I'll take 60 seconds. So there is actually a swath of data that FDA is actually liberating as a part of the Open Health Data Initiative. For example, FDA food, drug, device recalls, right, in downloadable form, in XML format. There's a whole other area that is tougher but very rewarding around how potentially industry could collaborate to share data that's pre-competitive to help lower the risk and expense of doing drug development in general. That's an incredibly sensitive topic, something we're very interested in. We're kind of moving through. Well,
we did finance this here in California, iSpy 2.
Right, yeah.
iSpy 2 is a program that is really about a lot of the pharma companies coming together with a leadership team at UCSF, if I'm not mistaken. I got to go back on my memory. And they've agreed to collaborate and ask the FDA to endorse the framework and to engage. And I believe NIH financed a portion of this through the Foundation for the NIH. So there's a movement here, voluntary, industry-driven, not imposed by Washington.
Right.
Next question. Role. What role would the government for social entrepreneurs and foundations to play in innovation?
We want them to play all day and night. So let's take education for a minute.
Yeah, I think
so Hal was here. Is here. So we had a little bit of money in the Recovery Act, about $650 million, to spark new ideas to close the achievement gap. But in a multi-billion-dollar educational ecosystem, this particular investment, while a lot in numbers, is really a very small share of an overall budget. It wasn't enough to fundamentally change the way we deliver education. A group of foundations and social entrepreneurs and others said, can we collaborate? And so we said, wait a minute. We don't want you telling the government who to win these awards, so let's flip the model. What if you had full transparency? What if the world had full transparency on who applied? 2,500 people applied for 50 awards. We decided to publish, with the applicant's permission, every single application. So if you go to data.ed.gov, you can see a theme here, data, gov, you get a lot of this. You can download summaries here in California for the applications that came in. Of those that we reviewed, the top 100, so if we funded like 4 in a category or 10 in a category, we went all the way to the top 100. That became public, where we actually published a full synopsis of the application. And the foundations created a portal called the FoundationI3Registry.org, where people who applied for this and may or may not have gotten funding could then automatically qualify with a push of a button, so that the Gates Foundation and Lumina and all these other amazing people would look at their applications for spillover. Now, those guys have billions of dollars, okay? So on the one hand, there's collaboration in this sort of spillover effect for monies that we do put out, but extended monies. Much more likely is initiatives like in healthcare. Todd will say a word about Beacon, and I'll say one more about, generally speaking, social entrepreneurship. The president has committed to this. We've got a leader in the White House named Sonal Shah, who is coordinating grants to entities that are engineering social entrepreneurship, catalyzing social entrepreneurship, community by community, run out of the Corporation for National Service, which is the obviously AmeriCorps and a lot of the key things there. Could you say a word about Beacon, just about the role of civil groups?
But before you go to Beacon, but just to amplify on Sonal's opportunity,
yes,
it's really, again, stressing this issue of public-private partnerships. We, the government, can be, the administration can be a convener, can be a catalyst, but we're not trying to do it all, or run it all, or drive. We're really trying to bring together the parties and sort of marry both the interests, the opportunity, and a variety of funding sources. So there's tremendous amount of flexibility and innovation that comes through that process.
Do you want to say a word about Beacon?
Sure, actually.
Yeah,
So Beacon Community is a really cool program that HHS is doing, where 17 communities across the country formed coalitions of employers, of foundations, not-for-profit organizations, providers, et cetera. And as communities competed and won grants to basically become the future of health IT, specifically to make investments in their community that leverage data and technology to solve a particular health problem, whether it be diabetes control, hospital readmissions for cardiovascular, et cetera. And it's really, really fantastic because it's one of the first exercises where the community itself, right, is the actor. Because historically, community has been kind of an amorphous thing. You say, well, the community's going to do that. And then you ask yourself, well, who is that, really? And the coolest fact about Beacon Community, actually, if I could just raise this for 1 second, is that there were 100 communities that apply. We weren't actually sure how many of them, within like the 10 seconds we gave them to apply, would get their act together and apply as a community. But 100 communities got together, formed these coalitions of different actors, and actually applied for these Beacon grants as a community. And we only could give money to 17, but we're actually teeing up the other 80 plus to foundations and say, look, these guys are awesome. How about you help them do what they're trying to do? And more broadly, we think social entrepreneurs and foundations, like entrepreneurs, like investors, like journalists, like public health officials, like local officials of all stripes, are key players in this emerging open health data ecosystem and this campaign to improve health in general, because all of them have a critical role to play, and we want to help all of them do that.
As you can tell, there's a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of activity in this space, and you can be part of that. As not trying to, as Aneesh and Todd have said, trying to get a federal contract per se, but as an entrepreneur, as taking advantage of all this transparency, all this information that's being made available, so that the opportunities are being created in real time, in real world circumstances. You should keep your eyes and ears open for some new initiatives in the education technology space that will be rolled out in the near future. Please join me in applauding these two incredible people and all that they do.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Can we get this mic? Oh, we need to take you guys on the road. I'm seeing a TV opportunity really quickly, and really appreciate Aneesh and Todd and Ginger's time. It was pretty phenomenal. Who thought that data could be so interesting and fun? I have to tell you, I was just like, I was on pins and needles the whole time, right? So, and what's interesting, they were talking about the Open Government Initiative. Aneesh and Todd will not go away. You will find them soon. Just 2 seconds of your time. The Open Government Initiative that Aneesh talked about, actually the White House Initiative is taking advantage of this. We're going to be posting our agency plans online for public feedback and comment very, very soon. So in line with making the federal government more transparent, wanting this to be more interactive, and especially with our initiative, our agency plans are from more than 23 federal agencies who will be describing how they're going to increase access and participation of the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities in their federal programs. So that's including SBA, that's including Department of Commerce, it's including so many different agencies. So I want to make sure you know about that. Also, we've just actually today connected to whitehouse.gov. Through our initiative. So we're going to be connected to the main whitehouse.gov website, and so you'll be able to see a lot more information about what we're doing and how to stay connected. I got to do thank yous. There's so many people to thank, but really quickly, DeLauer, superstar, rock star. He is the reason we are here today. No doubt about it. Also, the other commissioners, Daphne, Kampa, Rosita, all the way from Las Vegas. Want to thank their participation and their support. We have a 17-member commission. They are dynamic. I always describe that I'm being pulled along by them because they just have such amazing energy and a real commitment to this community. So I think we are very, very lucky to have them. Of course, my staff, who you've seen from Mia to Amanda to staff from Secretary Locke's, who was here, Vicky Tung, SBA, Christopher Chan, all the folks from the Department of Education, Events Coordinating Committee. I mean, were a lot of people involved in putting this together, and I know I am forgetting some folks, so please forgive me. And of course, Microsoft, thanking them. And I want to thank the agencies. I don't know if you grasp like how many agencies actually were in this space. I mean, not that, you know, I always joke about how like federal government is not that interesting, but I get really excited because we had SBA, we had Department of Treasury, we had Department of Commerce, we had Department of Energy, we had Health and Human Services, we had the White House. Am I forgetting anybody else? Sorry, John. Federal Reserve. So, which is actually a really important entity. So, yes, we cannot forget about the Federal Reserve. So all of these folks who've been involved in making this happen, I think that's the benefit of the White House Initiative, is that we work across the federal government. We have amazing individuals from Aneesh and Todd and Ginger to John Moon to Hal, to so many, to Will Yu and HHS, to all these folks who are so committed to what we're trying to do. You have friends in the administration. Even if we are far, far away in Washington, D.C., you can come and visit and stay connected. Wanted to, of course, thank Congressman Honda. I get calls, I think, probably every other month about getting called into Congressman Honda's office about, in a good way, about what's going on. I mean, he really does care about what's happening, and he's very invested in the initiative, and I really want to thank you for all your support. Could not do this without you. And also all the local, state officials that came out to support us and this endeavor and are very invested in their communities. I think that's really important. And last but not least is all of you who are so important to what we're trying to do. I mean, this is obviously irrelevant if you were not here and not interested and not invested in not only what you're trying to do in your own lives and careers and for your families, but for your community, for this country. I know I have great pride and a deep obligation to this president, and he inspires me every day about what we're trying to do. I know these have been difficult economic times for a lot of people, and we definitely understand that. And I know that when we came into thinking about doing these type of economic summits, the commissioners felt very strongly that we needed to come out of 2011 talking about what we can do to get our economy back on track. So this is the first economic summit that we've held, and it happened here in Silicon Valley. Not by chance, not by chance. So, homework. We need you to follow up with us and be engaged, at the very least. I know there were a lot of different questions, a lot of networking opportunities, people that you had a chance to connect with, but we know that this is just the beginning. So whether it's through our website, whether it's through email, let us know what you liked. Let us know what you didn't like. We're going to have evaluation forms that are going to be sent out to you. We do want this to be a partnership, not only with the initiative, but you know, the president speaks time and time again about this being a joint effort among all of us. And so we need you all to be engaged as much as possible. And I know that oftentimes here on the West Coast, I know DeLauer, he kept on saying, he was like, we need to get this information out. We need to make sure that folks in Silicon Valley and California know what's going on. And so we hope that this was the first of many opportunities to make sure that what we're doing reaches you, but that also, like Congressman Honda said, if we're not doing what we need to be doing, or if it's not making sense, to let us know. So with that, I will let you go. And thank you for your time. And I know this will be not the last time that we see each other. Thank you.